You won't believe what happened in my kitchen that morning. I thought I was alone, humming to myself while making coffee, when my grandson walked in unexpectedly. What he told me next opened a door between us that had been closed for far too long. It changed the way I see him, and the way I see myself. Before we begin, tell me, what city are you watching from? And if you enjoy stories that warm the heart and lift the spirit, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Now, let me share what happened. I was standing at the counter, early sunlight sliding through the window in those soft golden stripes that always make my kitchen feel warmer than it really is. At my age, mornings matter more than evenings. They feel gentler, more forgiving. I had just finished rinsing my mug when I heard footsteps, light but quick, the kind that belonged to someone young. I turned around, surprised to see my grandson, Ethan, already awake. He's 22, tall, with the kind of tired eyes young people get when they're trying to pretend they're fine. He offered me a half smile, the kind that says more than a full one ever could. He wasn't supposed to visit that week, but he'd shown up late the night before, saying only that he needed a change of scenery. I didn't push him then. Sometimes quiet says enough. "Grandma," he said, standing just inside the doorway like he wasn't sure he had permission to come farther. "Can I talk to you?" Now, a grandmother knows that tone. It's the one that pulls at your heart even before you hear the words. I nodded and motioned him to sit. He chose the chair closest to me, the one he used to scramble into when he was little, kicking his legs while I sliced fruit. The kitchen filled with that soft morning stillness, the fridge humming, the distant sound of a car passing outside, the faint smell of toast I had burned a few minutes earlier. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at his hands. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said. I've been keeping something to myself, and I didn't know who else to tell." My heart tightened, but not from fear. More from that unexpected tenderness, when someone trusts you enough to let you see their worry. He took a breath, and I could see his shoulders rise and fall, the way people do when they're gathering courage. "It's been hard lately," he said, "harder than I want anyone to know. I feel like I'm falling behind. Everyone my age seems to know exactly what they're doing, and I just don't." His voice didn't shake, but it thinned like a quiet thread trying not to break. I didn't interrupt. I just listened, letting him know he didn't have to rush. He looked up at me then, and there was something in his eyes, an openness I hadn't seen in years. "I came here because I knew you wouldn't judge me," he said. "I just needed someone who sees the real me." Those words touched something deep in me. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were honest. Sometimes age teaches you that honesty is one of the rarest gifts we ever receive. I reached out and placed my hand over his. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet gesture, the way you'd brush a leaf off someone's shoulder. "You don't have to have everything figured out right now," I told him. "Life isn't a race, and you're not alone." He closed his eyes for a moment, like the words rested somewhere inside him. And for the first time in a long time, I felt not just like a grandmother, but like someone who still mattered, who still had something to offer. The morning light shifted again, brightening the room, and the silence between us felt warm instead of heavy. I didn't know then where this conversation would lead, but I knew it was the beginning of something we both needed. When he opened his eyes again, he said, "There's more I want to tell you." And that's when everything truly began. Before he continued, Ethan rubbed his palms together the way he used to before spelling tests in grade school. It told me he was nervous, but also that he trusted me enough to be vulnerable. The morning light had brightened to just enough to cast a soft glow across his face, and for a moment he looked both older and younger than his years, caught between who he had been and who he was trying to become. He cleared his throat. "Grandma, last night when I decided to come here, I wasn't running from school or work. Not exactly. I was running from myself. Those words sat in the air like something fragile. I stayed quiet, letting him take his time. The kitchen felt smaller somehow, more intimate, not in a strange way, but in a comforting one, like the walls themselves were listening. "I've been pretending everything's fine," he said, "to my friends, to my parents, even to myself. But it's not. I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted, and I feel like I'm disappointing everyone." He paused, then added quietly, "Including you." That last part tugged at me deeply. I could feel it right in the center of my chest. I leaned back in my chair and took a slow breath. The smell of warm coffee lingered between us, a simple reminder of ordinary life, something steady, something that doesn't judge. "Ethan," I said, keeping my voice soft, "you have never disappointed me. Not once. And you don't need to perform for me. I care about the real you, not the version you think the world wants to see." His eyes glistened a little, though he blinked quickly, trying to hide it. Not out of shame, but because young people often think tears make them appear weak. At my age, I know better. Tears simply mean we're human. He rested his arms on the table. "You always make things sound simple." "It's not simple," I replied. "It's just clearer when you're looking at it with a few more years behind you." He gave a faint smile, and that alone felt like a small victory. The tension in his shoulders loosened, and he finally took a sip of the coffee I'd poured for him earlier. It was probably lukewarm by then, but he didn't seem to care. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I came here because I remember how safe I felt in this house. When I was little, this kitchen was the one place where everything felt right, and when I walked in last night, it still did. I thought maybe being near you would help me find myself again." It wasn't the words themselves that moved me. It was the honesty behind them. At that moment, I was reminded that the relationship between a grandparent and grandchild is its own kind of quiet treasure, built not on perfection, but on presence. "Well," I said gently, "you're welcome here for as long as you need. This house has room for your thoughts, your hopes, and your worries. And so do I." He looked up, meeting my eyes fully this time. "There's something else, something I've been afraid to admit to anyone." My heart quickened, not out of fear, but because confessions from someone you love carry weight. They open doors to deeper understanding. "Take your time," I told him. He drew a breath, steady but slow, and the moment stretched between us like a page turning. "I think I've been lost for longer than I realized," he said, "and I don't know how to tell people that I'm not the person they think I am." He stopped there, waiting, searching my face for judgment that wasn't there. And in that pause, I felt the story of his heart beginning to unfold. He didn't speak right away. The clock on the wall gave a gentle tick, filling in the silence while he gathered the last pieces of courage he needed. I could tell whatever came next mattered to him deeply. His fingers tapped lightly on the table, a small rhythm that reminded me of the way he used to fidget with crayons as a little boy. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but quiet. "Grandma, I've been trying so hard to live up to what everyone expects from me that I don't even know if those expectations were mine to begin with." I nodded, encouraging him without pushing. He continued, "I chose my major because Dad thought it was practical. I took that job because it looked good on paper. I've said yes to things I didn't want, and no to things I did, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And somewhere along the way, I stopped listening to myself." He looked up, searching my face as if waiting for disappointment to show. It didn't. Instead, I felt a warm ache, a tender mix of pride that he was opening up and sadness that he'd carried this so long alone. "I'd spent years trying to be the responsible one," he went on. "But inside, I feel like I'm barely holding everything together. And I didn't know who I could tell that to, until now. I reached for a dish towel beside me, folding it neatly just to give my hands something to do. His confession wasn't shocking. It was familiar. Too familiar. The kind of truth that follows people through decades until they decide to give it a voice. "Ethan," I said softly, "you're discovering something important. Life isn't just about meeting expectations. It's about learning which expectations actually belong to you." He breathed out, almost in relief. Then he asked something that caught me off guard. "Did you ever feel that way, Grandma? Like you were living a life that didn't fit?" The question warmed me because it meant he wasn't just talking. He was letting me in. I took a breath and let my memories rise gently, like pages loosening from an old book. "More times than I can count," I admitted. "When I was younger, I thought I had to be everything for everyone. A perfect daughter, a perfect wife, a perfect mother. But that kind of perfection doesn't exist. All it does is wear you down. It took me years to learn that my voice mattered too." He listened intently, leaning forward as if my words were something he needed to store away for later. "When your grandfather passed," I continued, "I realized I had spent so much of my life caring for others that I'd almost forgotten how to care for myself. But life gives us second chances. You're allowed to change direction. You're allowed to start again." He swallowed, his throat tightening with emotion. "I don't know where to start." I smiled. "You start right here, by being honest about what you want, even if you don't have all the answers yet." He stared at the tabletop for a moment, tracing a pattern in the grain of the wood. Then he said something that touched me more deeply than he knew. "I don't think I came here just to escape. I think I came because I needed someone to remind me who I am. Someone who's known me since before the world got complicated." Those words lingered warmly between us. I felt something shift, softly, subtly. Not a dramatic change, but a quiet alignment, the way a picture frame tilts slightly and then settles into place. "Then we'll figure it out together," I said. He nodded, a small but hopeful gesture. The worry in his eyes softened, replaced by something steadier. "And just when I thought the conversation was winding down," he added, "there's one last thing I need to tell you. Something I've never said out loud." I waited, my heart calm but attentive. "That," he said, "is the part I'm most afraid of." And I knew the next words would change everything, not in a dramatic way, but in a way that deepens understanding and brings two people closer than they've ever been. He sat there for a long moment, his hands clasped together, his eyes fixed on a point just beyond my shoulder. I could tell he was deciding how to shape his thoughts, how to turn whatever he carried into words gentle enough to release. The morning had grown brighter, filling the kitchen with soft warmth, but there was a quiet seriousness in the air that made everything feel still. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled just a bit. "Grandma, the truth is, I've been afraid to admit that I'm not happy with the path I'm on. I'm scared I'll disappoint everyone if I change direction. But I'm more scared that if I don't change, I'll lose myself completely." There it was. Not dramatic, not shocking, just honest. Pure, unguarded honesty. The kind that only comes out when someone feels truly safe. I felt a wave of tenderness rise in me, the kind that comes from years of watching someone grow, stumble, try again. "Ethan," I said quietly, "you don't owe the world a version of yourself that isn't real. You owe yourself a life that feels true." He let out a breath that sounded almost like a release. "I've been carrying this fear for so long. I didn't want anyone to see me as weak." "You're not weak," I replied. "You're human, and being human means sometimes admitting you're unsure. That's not a failure. It's a beginning." He looked at me, then really looked, and I saw the boy he used to be layered beneath the man he was becoming. There was relief in his eyes, but also gratitude, deep and quiet. "I didn't just come here for comfort," he said. "I came because you've always known how to see people, and I needed someone to see me again." The words touched me more deeply than I expected, not because they were grand, but because they were simple and sincere. I reached out and rested my hand on his arm, a gesture steady enough to anchor him, but gentle enough to honor the moment. "You're not lost," I told him. "You're just stepping into a new part of your life, and it's all right to ask for guidance along the way. That's why family exists." He nodded slowly, his shoulders easing as if a burden he'd carried alone had finally found a place to rest. The sunlight caught the edge of his face, giving him a quiet glow that reminded me how quickly time moves, how moments like this are small treasures. After a pause, he asked, "Do you think it's too late for me to start over?" I smiled, unable to help it. "Oh, sweetheart, it's never too late. Not for you, not for anyone. Life doesn't come with a deadline for figuring things out. It comes with doors. Some open easily, some take courage, but they're always there." He absorbed that slowly, like a person warming their hands by a fire. Then he said with a steadier voice, "I want to make choices that feel right, even if they take time. And I'll be here," I answered, "not to tell you what to do, but to walk beside you while you find your way." He stood then, almost instinctively, and wrapped his arms around me. It wasn't a dramatic embrace, just warm, sincere, and filled with the kind of connection that grows only through years of shared love and quiet understanding. I held him close, feeling gratitude settle inside me like a soft blanket. When he pulled back, he gave me a smile that reached his eyes. "Thank you for listening," he said. "Always," I replied. "This kitchen has heard your laughter, your questions, and now your truths. It'll hold all of it, and so will I." The moment settled gently between us, warm and steady. It wasn't a conclusion, it was a beginning. A new chapter for him, and in a way, for me too. As he poured himself a fresh cup of coffee, I realized something. Sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the deepest growth. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is a quiet morning in a kitchen filled with sunlight and trust.